I had never done the wrong thing in my life up until that point. Why is it when you kill a man in the heat of battle, it's called heroic, but when you kill a man in the heat of passion, it's called murder? You know, when you stab a man in the dead of winter, steam rises up from the wound. Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Experience Podcast. I am Dom DiTolla, sitting alongside my co-host, Chris Quinn. And today we are going to get into a little bit of hockey action.
Yeah, it was a little dark there for a second. I don't know if people knew where we were going, but it was just a nice reference to some nice donuts there. I mean,
The guy Glenn, who worked at the donut shop, Stan Mikita's Donuts, in fact.
that's right. In Wayne's World, Stan Mikita's, who we're talking about today, the famous Blackhawk.
Famous Blackhawk. Indians would say it was his soul escaping from his body. Anyway, we're talking about Stan Mikita, probably one of the best players of the 1960s and early to mid-1970s in the NHL.
Yeah, definitely.
And an interesting player because he was not from North America.
No, and this is one of the first. So the reason why he comes in, we're going to see it right here, is he had a bit of a transplant to Canada, which we didn't really see in this time. So
Yeah, he was born May 20th, 1940 in Sokolce. That's as good as it's going to get. I'm sorry if I'm offending any of our Slovak listeners here. The Slovak Republic, and raised in a small farming community until he was about 8, which you alluded to. He moved to Canada, St. Catharines, Ontario, kind of near Toronto, and he was adopted by his aunt and uncle, Anna and Joe.
and he immediately picked up and it's so crazy to not call it the national sport because technically it's not, but the sport that's played in every single backyard.
Well, because everyone has a rink and it's always cold.
Yeah, exactly. But he picks up hockey and he really excels at a young age.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was a really, really good hockey player, and since he's not playing that off-brand of football that has extra end zones and fewer downs and extra width, he becomes quite the hockey player in the Ontario area.
And this is what I mean with the path that these guys have. He wouldn't have had this path if he had stayed in the Slovak and whatever happened to that region during those times. But being in Canada, he has this NHL path, which, I mean, is so rare.
Well,
But
yeah, it's set up for him. I mean, he's an immigrant success story.
Yeah,
He,
definitely.
joins the junior league of the Ontario Hockey Association, the St. Catharines Teepees, which, great nickname. I mean, just fantastic. 3 seasons for them. He scored, improved every season, and
Yes.
you see him becoming the points machine that he always was as a center. 47, 78, and 97 points. And from the 56 to 59 seasons. And in 58, 59, he actually comes up with the Blackhawks for a few games. Just a little cup of coffee with them towards the end of the season.
Well, it's at the end of the season, they like to get these rookies a little run in and then send them back down. And then,
59-60, he scored 26 points, so he's getting a little bit more NHL action. But 60-61 is where he really establishes himself as a 21-year-old star, and the Blackhawks have a lot of success too with him.
Well, it's kind of interesting because this is really the youngest point in his career, and we see, unfortunately, the most success he has with the Blackhawks because,
Yeah.
and we'll bring it up time and time again, but this is the season in which, I mean,
They win the Stanley Cup. It's
They
their
go all
first
the way.
Stanley Cup since 1938. Granted, you only have 6 teams in the league, so you'd figure law of averages, you win more than one, or at least one in that era, but he didn't, or the franchise didn't, but they ended up winning in 60-61. They beat the Red Wings 4-2 in the Stanley Cup Finals. He has 53 points on the season, including 11 in the playoffs, and he led the league in goals during the postseason with 6.
yeah, well, that's something that I think always rings with him is he brings it in the playoffs, and it showed in this Stanley Cup winning season.
Yeah, and then 61-62, he establishes himself on what they call the scooter line as the center with wingers Ken Warham and Ab McDonald and later Doug Mons, but was just a great face-off guy as your center. I mean, he could do pretty much everything, but he was renowned for being a good face-off guy for
And
Chicago.
He didn't take any shit. So this is during his career in which he kind of averaged, I think, around 120 penalty box minutes in a season, which is it's a lot.
It's a lot.
If you're a center that is also somewhat of an enforcer, I would say that's probably about average.
Yeah, you have the what was it? The classic hat trick, the goal, the fight, and winning a fight, and then something having to do with another goal of some sort. I forget what it is, but sorry, I kind of spaced there. But no, 61-62 has a great season, and from 62 to 68, he makes the All-Star team 7 straight years. And then also again in 1970. And during that stretch, he tied his teammate Bobby Hull's 97 points in a season record.
Yeah.
And this is kind of when you see the NHL starting to change, is it becomes more of a scoring league as opposed to years past. And Mikita, who's not a big guy, who's your enforcer, he's only like 5'9", 170 pounds, like that he becomes the star in a hockey-crazed city.
Well, I want to go back to his face-off, and I want to go back to his scoring record, because at some point, and we talked about this before the podcast, at some point his stick gets wedged into the bench.
Yeah.
And he pulls it out, and it becomes curved. And he makes the realization of what a ridiculous advantage this is.
Yeah.
And him and teammate Bobby Hull are like, all right, how far can we curve these sticks?
Let's make them like canes.
Yes, no, seriously. And they do it so much that the NHL has to actually step in and be like, all right, guys, we're only curving these sticks so much. But I feel like this explosion of goals is also added to this new technology.
Yeah, sometimes you invent shit without thinking like, oh man, this is really going to be revolutionary.
Yes, exactly.
And, this kind of happens in the early mid-'60s. And then by 1970, the NHL just steps in and says, no, we're having regulations. You can still bend your sticks. It's hilarious that he would be on the bench or in the trainer's room using a propane torch to get the stick the way that he had wanted it.
Yes.
Off of just a fucking mistake.
Yes, off of a mistake. That's the thing that I kept going back to is it changed the entire face of hockey. Nobody has a straight stick anymore unless it's like a specialty. Yeah, exactly. So it's such a thing that is so weird to look back and be like, oh, everybody had a straight stick. And then he comes out and he's like, yeah, sorry, guys. It fucking warped in there. Like, yeah, no, it'll be all right. And he rips one shot and he's like, oh. And I bet the control on it so much more.
Well, I mean, think about it like golf clubs, And like Robin Williams talking about golf, like, not with a straight stick, a little fucked up stick. You can actually control the ball.
Yes.
When you want to hit it far, you use like the woods that are just straight across. And then as you get into your irons, they're more curved, the higher the number.
They're more forgiving, and they're more of like a scooping motion. So, yeah. And that's what everybody was like probably realized when they saw him and Bobby. They were just like, oh, we need to start doing that right now.
We need to contact Hank Hill about propane and propane accessories,
and that's
right
when
now.
Propane exploded.
Yeah. It was a great day in the NHL. They were whacking off in Matusha. No, that's a different character.
Well, same
voice. But he also was we were talking about equipment. He also was one of the first players to wear a helmet. Actually,
a full-time helmet. So this is something I found kind of interesting, because sometimes guys would take a hard hit and they'd be like, you know what, next time my next shift I'm gonna wear a helmet. You're like, your next shift, all right. Why did it happen? Because I actually found this kind of interesting too, because I feel like shit happens and then people are just like, all right, I'm done with that.
Yeah, right. He got a puck slapped and it hit him in the head and it almost tore his ear off.
It almost tore his whole ear off. So I think it did take a chunk out, but it was left with, a mangled ear. But he was just like, you know what? Not for me anymore.
Yeah, I like my face.
Yes, exactly.
I like my face.
My grandfather played amateur hockey, and he was the goalie before they wore masks. So even in his time, the goalies weren't wearing masks, and he took a puck to the face and had a discoloration in his cheek for the rest of his life. So it was just like a purple patch in his cheek. It was like a purplish red. And he was just like, yeah, it was like half the thing to like save it and half the thing to save your face.
Yeah, right.
And he just missed both of them on that one.
It's a good story for a bar, though.
Oh, yeah.
Pick up chicks,
Oh, man.
What happened to you? Hockey. Old-time hockey.
Let me tell you about some old-time hockey.
Hey everybody, just want to take a quick break to let you know that our Sports Experience podcast is brought to you by Engle Studio here, and they're here in Tucson for all your recording needs. It was in the day when I remember the Dust Bowl. No, but Mikita, though, was just a very dominant player during the 1960s for the Blackhawks. He won the MVP in both 67 and 68. He won the Ross scoring trophy in 64 and 65, and then again in 67 and 68. And then he also, I wanted to allude to this, he led the league in assists 65 to 67, 3 straight years.
Yep.
So he's not only a goal scorer, he's a distributor. And probably one of the more impressive things, besides, all the statistical things, one of the biggest awards he won was the Lady Byng Trophy, which is the sportsmanship trophy.
Well, he was the first player to win all 3 of those, right? The scoring. Yeah. And I thought because I alluded to it earlier, he was averaging about 120 penalty box points early in his career. And there was a point in his career where his daughter was watching him on TV, and she asked his wife, "Why does Dad spend so much time sitting down?" And he made the realization, like, "Oh, I really need to clean this up because
I'm hurting my team.
I'm hurting my team." It wasn't like, "Oh, I don't want my daughter to." It was like, "Oh, this is like, I'm not doing my best for my team." And this is what I found actually so interesting is he went down from averaging over 100 a year to, I think he had something like 14 penalty box points one year and like 12 the next year, which is like, it's such a ridiculous shift that this is when I feel like the Blackhawks really should have won that second Stanley Cup, and they just...
Oh, I know. He won in 67 and 68 when he's winning the Ross Trophy and the Hart Trophy. So, I mean, he's MVP, scoring leader, and the least penalized player / best sportsman or whatever they want to call it
whatever.
In Canada. So damn polite. God damn it, Canada.
Well, I mean, that's why the donuts are so delicious.
That's why. Yeah, exactly. No. The jelly donut with Garth. That's all I'm thinking of right now.
We fear change.
We fear change. But during this era, it's not like that they're a bad team. They just keep getting back to the Stanley Cup Finals and losing.
Yes, that was what I was going to allude to, and that's what must have been so frustrating for these Blackhawks fans. This is like a golden era. This was like a team that was built to win a Stanley Cup, and they literally win one, and then they just keep getting there and losing and getting there and losing.
Well, if you think about it, up until this most recent era where they've won, I think, 3 Stanley Cups, you take away maybe a few years in the 90s, this was the last time that they were a dominant hockey franchise.
Yeah.
And it was when there's only about 6 to 10 teams in the entire league, 6 to 12 teams. But 61-62, they go back to the finals. They lose to the Maple Leafs 4-2. He had 6 goals in the playoffs and 21 points in the postseason.
Yeah.
64-65, again they lose in the Stanley Cup Finals, this time in 7 games to the Canadiens.
Oh, those Canadiens.
Yeah. That's when they were like the Celtics of the NHL.
Yeah.
They were just in it every single year, it seemed like. 70-71, they lose to the Canadiens again, 4-3 in the Stanley Cup Finals. Mikita had 18 postseason points, and then 72-73, they lose to the Canadiens again, this time only in 6. And that's kind of the last year of their run where they're in. It's the last Stanley Cup Finals that they make.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring this up. He played 20 seasons in the NHL, which I found so fascinating. And from 61 to 62 to 74-75, so this is basically 14 seasons. He had 90 points twice, 80 points 7 times, 4 times 70 points, and 1 time was 60. And then in 72-73, he had 83 points in 57 games. Could you imagine if he played a full season, what he would have been able to accomplish?
Well, that should have been his 100-point season. And he was projected even to go up into like 110, 100, whatever. That's what people were saying was like, that was his season that was shortened by injury. And that's
pre-Gretzky almost.
I was going to say, and this is what a unbelievably great center he was he not only was this scoring machine, this points machine, but he like realized that he needed to change his game to better his team, and he did that. And the take out the revolution that he had with the bent stick. Like, he deserves so much recognition in just the sport of hockey.
Well, he helped revolutionize the game. There was a great quote about what a prepared player he was. Dale Talion, who played with him for about 5 seasons, said he was more prepared than anybody I've ever played with. I mean, come on. Like, he was 2 steps ahead of the competition.
Well, he was this professional before it was standard.
Yeah, it said his preparation was impeccable. His style of play was unique. He had great skills and drive and passion.
That's it. That's all you need for a hockey player. Like,
Yeah.
I can't even ask for anything else. You know what I mean?
Bobby Hull even said about him, he said, pound for pound, Stan had to be one of the greatest who ever played.
Yeah,
And that's coming from Bobby Hull.
I was going to say, that's something from Bobby Hull where he's played with so many guys, and you're just like, okay, so that's...
Yeah, and he said he was a player who always came to play, and that's high praise from one of hockey's greatest players. And it's even more amazing is that in his late 20s, I believe in the 68-69 season, that's when his back injuries started coming up.
Yep.
And that's kind of what plagued him towards the end of his career as far as his scoring ability as you get into the mid to late 70s, because he kind of starts slowing down around 75, 76. He has 57 points. The following season, 49, 77, 78, 59, 78, 79, 55. And then in 79, 80, which was his last season, he only had 7 points.
And like you were saying, the Blackhawks weren't the team they were in the late 60s, early 70s. So they're kind of, dying off here, and his career is kind of going into what we see a lot of guys. Like, the thing that I find so ridiculous is he played that last 5 years and had those numbers, because, I mean, playing 20 years in the NHL is just absolutely crazy.
Well, lesser players would have retired in 1973.
Exactly.
Like guys who weren't as tough. That's what they would have done. I certainly would have done it. I mean, geez Louise. But he also, incredibly, as far as his career goes, he retired and he had 1,467 points, 541 goals, 926 assists, a plus-minus ratio of 329. And when I say plus-minus ratio, if you don't know, that is the stat that's given to you is when you're on the ice, you get 1 point for every goal that is scored and 1 point taken away for any time your opponent scores while you're on the ice, which means the Blackhawks were 329 goals better with him in the lineup and him playing than him not.
Exactly. So whatever line he was on, that line was pretty much producing a positive outcome for the Blackhawks and that's over 20 years. That's what's, yeah.
And only 6 guys had played in more games by the time he retired. He had 1,396 games, which means he was scoring over a point a game.
Yep.
And then made the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1983, the Slovak Hockey Hall of Fame in 2002. And I wanted to bring up his postseason stats. He played in 155 postseason games, 59 goals, 91 assists, 150 points. So he's averaging almost a point per game in the postseason. When his team needs him the most. Granted, they kind of ran into some steamroller Canadiens teams and lost to the Maple Leafs after that Stanley Cup win against the Red Wings. But still, you look at that and you go, man, this guy always came to play.
Yeah, seriously.
But was a very large fixture in the Chicago community after his career. Like, he made it his adopted home.
Well, this is where we get into a great post-career. So, a positive post-career, not where stuff gets kind of wild. So he had a friend who had a son who was hearing impaired and who was a goalie, and he wanted the hockey organization to rally around deaf players more. So he got involved with the American Hearing Impaired Hockey Association, and then got really involved with the Special Olympics with his family. So
yeah, in 1983, he started the AHIHA.
Yep.
That's a very long acronym, but still, I mean, it's a great and noble cause for somebody to pursue and put their time, effort, and money into it. And he also had a very colorful off-ice career as far as being successful in business, too.
Yeah.
He was a golf pro at a local golf club and country club. He had Stan Mikita Enterprises, where they invented the plastic sauce containers you see at fast food venues.
Yeah,
I think
those
that's
little.
pretty awesome. He even had a kid's book called My Man Stan, which probably was pretty entertaining for children. And then had a golf tournament in 2001 started in his honor. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And also, as we alluded to at the beginning, he was famously used in the Wayne's World movies as the guy at the donut shop. It was called Stan Mikita's Donuts, and there was a big, statue figure of him on top of the store.
Making fun of Tim Hortons.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They did build a statue of him and Bobby Hall outside of the Blackhawks Stadium, right?
Yeah, outside the United Center. It's there, yeah. I mean, they're two of the team's best still.
Yeah, yes.
I mean, guys like Kane and Taze are really good, but so are Stan Mikita.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's why we got to give him that shout out,
Yeah, he was basically like the team's ambassador, especially during the years when they were just absolute dog shit.
Yeah.
The end of his life, though, was actually kind of sad.
Yeah.
He had oral cancer in May 24th, 2011, extensive radiation therapy. And then in January 30th, 2015, things really go wrong when he's diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. And if you don't know what that is, it's a little bit like Alzheimer's, but it's just as awful.
Yes.
And it's what Robin Williams was diagnosed with. It's why he killed himself, because it's a horrible way to live. Just a terrible, what's the rest of your life set to come after you're diagnosed with it. And his wife, Jill, was saying that around that time, he had completely lost all memory of everything in his life. As far as his body was physically okay, but all of the memories that he had in good time, everything was just wiped away.
Yeah, it was just
like
gone.
A blank slate.
Yeah.
And August 7th, 2018, at age 78, he died of Lewy body dementia, left behind his wife, 4 kids, and 9 grandkids. It was found out because they studied his brain, though, on September 14th, 2019, the Boston University CTE Center, kind of a wake-up call for hockey. They studied his brain and found he had stage 3 CTE, which is one below the worst possible level that you can get. Whether he got the Lewy body dementia from that, nobody knows, but even the helmet didn't help him in hockey.
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting, and like you said, a wake-up call to these other sports that, hey, pretty much any of this constant head contact might cause this, and we're kind of unclear as to how it affects individuals. That's the thing, is you can see guys be O linemen their entire lives and their brains are fine, and then you can see guys that this affects more.
The Earl Morrell episode we did, I mean, he died of something completely different, didn't show any signs of decline or CTE or anything, and he had the worst level of CTE.
Yeah.
So, we'll never
know. Yeah, we won't.
I mean, not in our lifetimes, probably.
No, probably not.
That's a Stan Mikita, everybody.
Hey, everybody. This is just a stock message at the end of every episode. We hope you enjoyed whatever athlete and or team that episode was about. Just want to say, give us a quick follow on all social media. We have a YouTube channel, the Sports Experience Podcast, and we're on Instagram, DiTolla Dominic, and myself, C. Quinn Comedy. So give us a follow all around. We're always recording right here at Engle Studio. Thank you all very much.